Hi, first graders. Today we are going to continue our reading adventure. And in our bag this week, we've already worked on retelling what happened. But today we're going to strengthen that even more by working on retelling the important parts and marking pages to remember. Now, this is important because sometimes when I'm reading, when I finish a book and I have to retell it, it can be really hard to remember all of the important things that happen and leaving out the little things that happen that aren't as important. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to go back into Iris and Walter and the field trip, and we're going to mark the important parts of what happened in the story to help us go back and be able to retell it. So let's think about the first really important thing that happened. In our book, the first important part and the first thing I'm going to mark is when Iris and Walter find out that they are going on a trip to the aquarium. I'm going to use a post-it note with a think mark on it. This is important because Iris and Walter find out that they're going on a field trip to the aquarium. Okay, now let's think about what's going to be my next important part. It's not going to be when Iris and Walter are having dinner. That's not a super important part of the story. What it is going to be is when Miss Cherry is telling all of the students the rules. This is important because this is showing us that Iris and Walter know the rules to pay attention and stay with their partner. Gonna mark that with my think mark. Okay, next important part. Let's think about the bus ride. When Iris and Walter go on the bus, they're bus buddies. And I'm noticing something else here that makes it a really important part. They notice this boy in the same shirt as Walter. And we know that that's important because it kind of gives us a hint as to what happens when Walter gets lost. So I'm going to mark that with my think mark. And I'm going to think about what happens next. Now on the very next page, they're in a tunnel with all of the fish in the aquarium. Would this be a part that I want to mark as one of my important parts to use when I'm retelling the story? Now, we can probably leave this one out because it's not a super important part. So we don't need to add that and we don't need to post a part there. Now let's think about the next important thing that happened. The next part that's really important is when Walter is just staring at all of these beautiful fish. This is important because we know from reading this book that this is an important part because Walter is staring at all of these beautiful fish when the rest of his class is still moving along. Can you think of the next part that is really important in this story? Would it be when they're looking at the penguins? No. Would it be when Iris realizes she's not with Walter anymore? Yes. So we're going to mark this page when Iris realizes Walter is missing and she was with not her buddy, a buddy from another school. So what we just did you see how we did that? We went through and we marked all of the important pages, and now watch how I can go back and I can retell you all of the important parts that we've marked so far. So when I retell, in Iris and Walter in the field trip, first, Iris and Walter found out that they were going on a field trip to the aquarium. I can go right to my next think mark that I posted. Next, Miss Cherry told the class all of the rules. After that, they took a bus ride to the aquarium. Iris and Walter were bus buddies, and they noticed someone was wearing the same shirt as Walter. Next, Walter loved these beautiful fish at the aquarium, and when the rest of his class was walking through, he was staring at all of those beautiful fish. After that, Iris realizes Walter is missing. Okay, can you think about this book and think about the ending? What would you mark next in this book? We've went back and we've retold. Maybe you'd mark when Iris goes and tells Miss Cherry that Walter's missing. And then you could mark when they found each other. So today, your job is to go back into a book that you've already read and post a part or write down or tell someone all of the important parts in that book. Once you've done that, you're going to be able to go back and retell the story to someone at home. Okay? So we've added into our bag, retell the important parts, and we've marked our pages with a Post-it note, or we've written down all of those important parts. Today, when you're reading, your job is to go back into a book that you've already read and mark the important parts to help you retell what has happened. Okay? You're going to mark the important parts to retell what has happened. Okay, can't wait to hear your retelling of your story.